What's going on, Knicks family? It's your boy, UnclefOOlio, and I'm back with another episode of the Kontroversy, ladies and gentlemen. As always, these episodes are sponsored by Nothing But Knicks. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell to be notified of any new content we have for you. Pre-game coverage, post-game coverage, shoot-around videos, Queens Court videos, and any type of breakdowns that we're doing as the Knicks are finishing up this, I'll say, rather disappointing season. And as we, we have our last 20 or so games left, we're going to be bringing you all this coverage. So definitely tune into NBK. We have all the content here for you. Obviously, by the topic of this video, and you've seen in the graphic there, we're going to talk a little bit about RJ Barrett. Should the Knicks build around RJ Barrett as he finally arrives? We're going to break that down a little bit more. Also, we're going to talk about what the Knicks front office should do in the offseason. I know season's not done yet, but I know a lot of people are looking forward to the offseason and what options are on the table for the Knicks to pursue this offseason. Do the Knicks have a promising young core? We're going to talk a little bit about these young guys and, get into, their strengths, their weaknesses, and should we continue to keep some of these young guys moving forward? Also, at the end, we're going to talk about what are the expectations for the remainder of the season. Glad to be back with you guys. Today, we got on the show, we got Gavin from Duval County, new NBK member. Definitely had to get him on here to get his take on some of these things. And we have the one and only Isaiah here as well to talk about some of this stuff. We're going to debate and discuss some of these topics that have been pressing, right? So without further ado, let me get these guys in here. Gavin and Isaiah, what's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
What up? What up? How you guys doing today? Salute to everybody. Salute the panel. Salute to the chat.
Salute, man. Salute. Isaiah, what up?
What's going on, Josh? It's been a long time coming. I know I've been trying to get on for a couple ones. So, I appreciate you letting me on the show. Shout out to you. Shout out to Gavin. Shout out, welcome to the family, bro. Welcome to the MBK family. Of course, shout out to Sam, my big brother. Shout out to the whole channel, to Pat, everybody, man. Shout out to everybody. Let's get it popping, man. Let's get it popping.
Yeah, Isaiah's been trying, but he ain't really been trying too hard. Dude stood me up a couple times. You know what I'm saying? But I finally got him on here, and we're gonna talk about what's going on with this team. So first and foremost, listen. This has been a disappointing season. I think we all know that, and we all, understand what's going on. Season hasn't gone the way we thought it was going to go, right? But I feel like throughout the season, there's some stuff that we can build on that we can use as positives from this season, right? First and foremost, RJ Barrett. I know he's been having a coming out party past few games or so. He had the game-winning shot earlier in the season, and I think he has how many 30-point games he has this season? I want to say, is it like 5 or something?
It's over 5. I think it's over 5 now. I think he has had over
like 7. I think it's like 5 or 7 30-point games. So he's starting to come into his own. So the first thing we're going to talk about is RJ Barrett. Should the Knicks build around RJ Barrett? Isaiah, I know this is your guy, and I know I've been very critical on him, but I want you to start us off. How should the Knicks build around RJ Barrett? What do you think about RJ Barrett's play and his development so far?
Yeah, just to start off, I'm going to start off with agreeing with you. The season has been very disappointed. Every Knicks fan has felt the disappointment in the season. It's just been the nightmare from hell for the season. Everything that was going wrong has been going on wrong. We don't catch a break between just injuries, lackluster play, cohesion, free agent signings. It's just been a massive L after L. So RJ Barrett is really one of the only bright spots of this season. He's been playing fantastic, and this is his coming out party. I think me personally, I think him and Ja have upped the stakes of the 2019 draft. To me, those two so far are the best players out of that draft. Clearly, we all know Ja's the best player out of that draft class so far. But I think RJ's rightfully so in the number 2. Between his 3 seasons, between the defense, he's been just playing great. Especially this season, the offense and the defense has been there. And to me, it's clear as day now that the Knicks should build around RJ Barrett. To me, is no question. I think he's emerged. I think his leadership, I think his defense, I think everything that we've asked for a Knicks player to be, that we've been begging for, he's that. And to me, it makes the perfect sense to make him for now in the future, to make him the one we build around.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll definitely respond to that. Gavin, how do you feel about RJ Barrett? And to answer that question about RJ becoming that guy.
Real quick before that, Isaiah, do you think that RJ going forward is a number 1, or building around him would be the number 1 option?
So I think so because I think in championship kind of level teams, I think RJ Barrett would be a great 1B. I really think RJ Barrett would be a great 1B on a championship level team that's going for championships. I think he'll be a great 1B. Um, he could possibly be a 1A because again, he could be like a Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's pretty much a 1A. But it's weird because Jimmy Butler can play the 1B when he needs to be. And I think RJ Barrett is to me a little bit similar to Jimmy Butler. Um, but you do build around those kind of guys, because I think even like when the Pacers were building around Paul George, I think Paul George is a very strong 1B. And the Pacers built around him for a while and they have great success. But I do think right now for us, I think the best option would to be built around RJ, and then I feel like we can possibly get a 1A on this team, and we could do it that. So I still do agree that the Knicks should build around RJ.
So that's kind of where I was gonna go with it. I love RJ's play of these last what was it since December? Since I think
Pretty
right
much, it's
after
been about
Christmas.
December.
Yeah, so going on these last 2-3 months, I think that he's stepping up when he needs to. He's showing that for this team right now, he's that guy. I mean, it's just sad that as of right now, it's one of those things where not that it doesn't matter, but from the rest of the season standpoint, as to where this team is gonna go, it doesn't matter. Because I don't think that we're gonna make the play in, but I like it for what I am seeing for what I'm going to get from RJ going forward. I like the mentality. I like the biggest thing that I like about RJ is that he's staying aggressive. Um, and I would say from a mental standpoint and an attitude standpoint, it almost looks like he's overpowering Julius on the court as of late. I think as far as building around RJ, here's a couple of things that I take to consideration. So I was looking at the teams that Tibbs had in Minnesota and the teams that he had when he was with Chicago. Now, assuming that Tibbs is the coach, the teams that he had, he always ran his offense through who was providing him the most offense. So in Chicago, he was running it through Derrick Rose. And then once Jimmy Butler got there, it was through Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler. When he was in Minnesota, he was running it through Andrew Wiggins. And then once Cat got there, he was running it through Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. And I think once Jimmy Butler got there, now he was running the offense through Jimmy Butler. So Tibbs likes to run his offense through who is providing him the most, who gives him the most productivity in his standpoint. So I think building around RJ is you also have to have somebody who's going to complement, I think, his productivity, and you're going to need somebody who is going to give us something solid. I like Grimes. I think you definitely have something there with Grimes. To me, his game reminds me of a more defensive Klay Thompson without the consistency right now and the shot creating right now. I think that Klay is better at, and I think it's just because Klay's been in the league longer that he trusts it a little bit more, and Grimes is still in kind of that mentality of, I'm still a rookie on this team, but from the quick release, he's not afraid to let it fly. He takes great shots. There's not too many bad shots that I have seen from Grimes this year. And one thing I like about Grimes is he's going to wear down the other team's defender by running them around screens. So that opens up things for your whole offense when you're wearing down somebody else. I think that I like the ball in RJ's hands. And so that's why when I think of Tibbs being the coach, if we bring in a secondary ball handler who's not providing a lot of offense, I don't really see what we're doing because I can see RJ as being a floor general as his years progress. And I think to Isaiah's point is I think he'll be a great 1B. I don't see RJ as a 1A right now. And for me, that's more so because of free throws. And to me, you just can't be the number one if when it comes down to it, I can't trust you with the line. But I definitely think that you build, I don't like to say around, I like to say build with him. And kind of that's where I agree with you, Josh. And I saw somebody post on Twitter today when you have Mitch camping in the paint, and RJ's trying to drive to the paint, how you're always going to have that second defender right there because Mitch is right there. I think that's where you do have to talk about getting a stretch five, or at least somebody who can back out to the mid-range and knock in the mid-range shot to open up those driving lanes for RJ.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. The next question, we're going to talk about what the front office should do to support RJ, whether we think we can build with him or around him or what have you. But I know a lot of people have been coming at me lately on Twitter and some of these chats because of my RJ take this season, and I don't think I said anything that was crazy, right? In my opinion, I think RJ Barrett, everything that I wanted him to do, he's now starting to do, right? He is now starting to become a threat on the floor. Teams are now starting to double team him. He's now becoming that focal point that teams are now keying in on and fearing when he's out there on the floor. And a lot of it is his mentality, the aggressive mentality that he is starting to have. He didn't have before. Right? He did not have before. And I get it. The Knicks weren't running many pick and roll pistol sets for him, things of that nature. But in the times that they did, RJ Barrett wasn't producing, right? Majority of the games that RJ Barrett had a super high usage rate when he was the focal point, he really wasn't executing and doing anything with. But now you see that RJ Barrett has the ball in his hands more. His teammates know he's going to get the ball. Opposing teams know he's going to get the ball, and he's taking full advantage of the matchups that he has out there on the floor. We've seen in the last two games, RJ Barrett doing some switches with Quickly or whatever guard he's out there on the floor just to get a favorable matchup, right? You've seen him switch on to James Harden, taking advantage of that matchup. That's a mentality thing, right? And that all goes back to development. That goes back to how he is being developed. I think RJ Barrett has developed tremendously in this season, despite the numbers not being what they were last year. And I think the numbers eventually will get up if he continues to play the way he's been playing the past, couple months or so, right? But to me, it's not about the stat sheet. It's about the mentality. And I think there's a growth in mentality there. And because of that reason alone, I am willing to make RJ Barrett one of the focal points of this team, whether it be 1A, 1B. I think the 1A, 1B thing will depend on who the Knicks decide to bring in to play alongside of RJ Barrett. If that person's going to be better than RJ, he's going to be the 1A. But if not, he's going to be a 1B or what have you. RJ Barrett will be the 1A. I think the Knicks can continue to move in that direction. Okay, so I have no problem with the Knicks building around RJ or with RJ, however you want to put it, because now I see that mentality and I know it has that in him, and I have no problem with the Knicks using him as a focal point for the future. And I completely stand by a lot of the stuff that I was saying early in the season. Maybe, he's not going to be just this role player for the rest of his career. I never thought he would. But at the time, the way he was playing like a role player, someone who's not going to put the ball in the basket, but was doing everything else, the defense, the rebounding, right? That's what role players do. Right. So now that he's not doing that anymore, and he's now starting to become much more efficient, picking and choosing and being the focal point of the offense. Clearly, he's not a bench player, and he's definitely playing like someone that the Knicks should decide to keep around moving forward. Isaiah, you will have something to say about that. You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong. I mean, I guess so, John. I think the biggest thing with you, Josh, was I just never understood was that you were very, how can I say? It's like you're very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like you were very just hard. I wouldn't say hard on RJ. You were just very like, oh, if he's not doing this, he's not doing that, then, he must be like, nah, bro, it takes time, bro. At the end of the day, it takes time. Like I remember, we know I'm going to go with this. We talked about, benching him, put him on the bench and all this stuff, G League. It's like, nah, fam, you can clearly see those days.
Hold on. I never said G League. Don't put words in my mouth. I said bench. I did say bench, but I didn't say G League. Let's get that. We gotta check.
If Sim watching this, we gotta check the tape on that, Sim. No, but
okay, we do.
So I feel like when it comes to RJ, man, it was always gonna take time. Like again, right? And I'm not saying that you did this, but people get so upset when we didn't get Zion or we didn't get Ja, which again, it's whatever. I mean, you can be upset about Ja if you want. I guess it's whatever. But I feel like people always like. I remember it's so crazy, right? I remember when the Knicks were in the lottery, it was a 3-man draft. It was Zion, RJ, and Ja. Then when the Knicks finally got when the Knicks got the third pick, then everybody tried to shift and say it was a 2-man draft. I'm like, wait, hold on. You just said it was a 3-man draft, and people, and I'm not saying you, Josh, but I'm saying people in general. It's just like people just don't give RJ's the RJ time to breathe. He's only 21 years old, and it's different from me saying that. Like for example, like when I used to say about Frank Ntilikina, he's young. RJ had the offensive tools and he had the defensive tools. He just needed the reps and he just needed some time. I think we didn't give RJ that time to breathe. Like we're acting like sometimes we expect him to be Ja, we expect him to be Luka because these guys come out the gate hot. But what RJ's trying to do is something harder. RJ's trying to be a two-way player at a young age, which if you look at the stats, you look at his defensive ratings, he's doing this at 21 years old. So, I think we had to give RJ some time. Like people, again, I'm not saying you, Joe, but people just get so upset that RJ's not scoring, that RJ wasn't scoring 25 a game on 50, 90, 40 efficiency when it's like, fam, you got to give some of these guys a chance, especially these guys that want to be two-way players. And I love that when RJ was young, he took the challenge of wanting to be a two-way. He wanted to guard the LeBrons. He wanted to guard the Jimmy Butlers. He wanted to guard the Kawhis. He wanted to guard these guys. And he took on the challenge. And to me, he's getting rewarded now because the defense is there. The offense is finally coming along and it's meshing now, and he's only 21 years old. He's not even close to his prime. So, to me, it was just about patience with RJ. That to me what it was.
Well.
So
let me go ahead, Gavin. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, so I think to Josh's sentiment, where he was coming from is early in the season, everybody was saying RJ's that guy, make him number one, make him the number one, make him the number one. But at the time, his numbers and productivity on the court was not that of a number one. Now, granted, neither was Julius Randle's. But
oh no, of course not.
Yeah, neither was Randle's. But people would keep saying make RJ that guy, but his numbers were not showing it. And so now I think people are saying Josh is flip-flopping, but it's all he's saying is he's like, I'm cool with RJ being that guy now that he's doing what he's doing now. And But like you said, Bubba, it just took time. So now we can say, okay, RJ is that guy. But before, when he was going through that slump, it's hard to say make him that guy when it's not showing on the court. Now his aggressiveness and things, that's one thing, but when your shots aren't falling, I think that's more so of where Josh is coming from, because at the time, everything that we were wanting him to do, he wasn't doing. Now he's doing it. So now I can say RJ's that guy because he's being efficient at the line, or not the line. He's being efficient off the floor. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, no, I mean, I totally agree with everything you said up until the point where you said what the stats are showing. To me, it has nothing to do with stats. Where I was coming from was the mentality, and that's what I was trying to say, and that was my biggest thing. A lot of people, and Isaiah, you want to say that I wasn't being patient. A lot of fans weren't being patient. They were already comparing him to Kobe. There was a stat, how many players under 21 did this and did that? Kobe and Luka and KG and all this stuff. Right, so it wasn't me that was doing that. Everything I was saying about RJ was combating the fact that so many people were willing to crown him at such a young age when he literally has not accomplished anything. Right, that was where I was coming from with it. So it's not me backpedaling or changing my story or anything like that. Now that I see that his mentality has changed and that some of those people that he was on that list with, the Lukas and the Kobes, had that mentality from day one. Because Kobe, he didn't have the best stats in year one, right? But everyone knew because of the mentality that he had, the type of player he was going to become. Now that I see RJ with that mentality, I'm fully accepting the fact that RJ Barrett is going to be something in this league. But I didn't see that from day one, the way other people were saying it, right? So it wasn't me saying that he's never going to be, an all-star type of player. I've never said that I wanted to see him in the G League. I've never said that. I said that I think at the time, RJ Barrett would have been better playing with the bench because they play a faster style of basketball. You could have kept his minutes the same, over 30-something minutes a game. But to me, I thought he fit better playing with that unit coming off the bench. And even now, to me, RJ Barrett's a starter in this league. Me saying I want him on the bench is not me saying I don't think he's a starter, but I just think the group of players around him, he fits better with that second unit. That wasn't a diss to RJ Barrett. And people were putting it like Josh is the RJ hater. That's not where I was coming from at all.
You're not RJ hater, but it's okay. It's okay.
Hold on. One last thing that I'm going to say. RJ Barrett is a Knick. I am happy and hopeful of what he can become. I will never root against players on my own team because I know that the Knicks need RJ Barrett right now. They need him. So I will never root against a player that's on my team. I will put that out there, and I'm a Knicks fan first at the end of the day. So if we Knicks need RJ Barrett and he can help this team win, I'm going to be all for it at the end of the day. But people in this, like, I was hating on him just to hate on him. Like, for what reason? There's no reason for me to hate on RJ Barrett. Go ahead, I said.
So now,
Oh, no, Gavin will go. Gavin.
Go ahead,
it was
guys.
just a question. I'd say, so as far as you saying that you like how RJ's fit is with the second unit, as far as what the question was about the young core, so building for next year and the years to come, do you like a core of RJ, Cam, and Grimes and building around that?
Yes. No question, because now you got a guy in there that can go get you a bucket, and RJ Barrett, and we all know the potential that Cam has. Now we know that potential, right? And also on top of that, I know I also said in the past that, you know, Randall was the one that was untradeable, because if you trade him, you know, you don't have another guy that can go get you a bucket. And that's why I was hoping RJ Barrett can become. Now that RJ Barrett is that guy, and I know that RJ Barrett plays better with the second unit group of guys, and I think him and Randall, to me, they just don't fit well together. I am for moving Randall. I am absolutely for moving Randall, because now we have that guy in RJ who can be the focal point of the offense, who can be that guy, who can be that type of player that you can build around. So this is not me loving Randall and hating RJ. It was never that. To me, I just wanted to make sure the Knicks were covered in the event that, you know, RJ Barrett, you know, didn't live up to his, you know, potential or whatever, you know, everyone wanted to say. Go ahead, Isaiah.
Yeah, no. So look, I mean, when it comes to RJ, I mean, I just to say what Gavin was saying, do I believe that you? And I do agree with you. Okay, I do agree with your last parts. I mean, I've been on the trade Julius ran away, but he doesn't fit for this team. And I think when we become a championship level team, hopefully in the next few years, I just don't see him on this team. I just don't like the way he plays. I think it doesn't develop RJ. It doesn't develop anybody on his team. But that's a whole different controversy. But I will say that, you know, with the core of, you know, RJ, Cam, Grimes, and hopefully Jaden Ivey or somebody around that caliber of players, I do hope that those guys will be it. And Josh is gonna hate this what I'm about to say, because I've been talking about them this whole season. But you can be a Memphis Grizzlies. You could be one of those teams, those young gun teams where you have some good wings and possibly maybe get a point guard of free agency and help these young guys go. Because I still think, to me, it's still amazing that RJ's doing this without a point guard. He hasn't had a point guard wholeheartedly he hasn't had a point guard probably since high school. You know, and Duke, he didn't have a point guard. NBA, he hasn't had a point guard. So again, right, if you have a core of, maybe, like I said before, maybe Jaden Ivey, God willing, RJ, Cam, Grimes, quickly, depending how you feel about them, and you build those guys and they get a point guard with that, and then maybe you get a defensive stretch four, you know, probably trade Obi and get. To me, you should just wash your hands with the power forwards on these teams. You should just wash your hands with them. Personally, they're just
okay.
See, I don't think that RJ is one of those players. He's not one of those players that needs a point guard, because he is somebody that plays with the ball in his hands, and that's when he's at his best, is when he's in control and he can go through and running his offense. So
I can't agree with you, Gavin.
Okay. Why not?
Only reason why I say that is because most of these best teams have a point guard. Most of the best teams have a point guard. Like, for example, please.
But I'm not talking about the best teams. I'm talking about us and the players that we have.
But we're trying to be that, though.
Are we? Okay.
But what I'm saying is that I'm saying that because you look at the teams in the NBA, they have great point guards. Like, again, the Bulls, they have Lonzo Ball. You have the Milwaukee Bucks, they have Drew Holiday. You have the Nets, they have Kyrie. You have the Warriors, Stephen Curry. You have the Suns with Chris Paul. Again, and I'm going to use the Suns for example. Before Chris Paul got on our team, we were just considering Devin Booker a shot chucker and guy that just empty stat guys on a bad Suns team. We get a Chris Paul. He gets a Chris Paul. Now everybody's comparing him to Kobe. And all I'm saying is with RJ, I think me personally, is RJ, don't want RJ with the ball in hand? Yes. But I also think RJ should be a secondary ball handler to a point guard. I think that's when you're going to get the best out of RJ.
So I see what you're saying, Isaiah, and I just now thought about that you bring that up. But me, I'm on the opposite end. I want to see RJ Barrett as a primary ball handler and have a secondary point guard play next to him. right? And I think you can have it both ways and still get the same kind of dynamic to where
Yeah,
you
I
don't
agree with you.
have
I think
to where you don't have too many guys holding the ball. And I think this goes to that Jaden Ivey thing. And this is why I personally don't like the fit with Jaden Ivey. Like, I know who Jaden Ivey as a player. I've watched some of his games in college or whatever. I know he's balling. Do not get me wrong. But where would you play Jaden Ivey in a lineup with the potential of Cam, RJ, and Jaden Ivey? Like, who's going to get the ball? How do you manage that ball handling?
Well, me personally, so people are not gonna like how I would envision this. But if you had all those guys starting, I mean, again, I would probably play small ball. I would most likely have a lineup of Jaden at the 2, RJ at the 3, Cam at the 4, Mitch at the 5, and then insert your point guard. That would be me personally.
Well, again, are you going to have a ball dominant point guard in that type of lineup, or are you going to have a secondary ball handler? That's what I'm saying.
So see, to me, that one, I would personally probably have a more ball dominant because I think that would benefit these guys a lot. Like I'm trying to use I'm trying to think if you had maybe well, Drew's kind of a secondary. Well, no, he's a
secondary ball handler. But he's a secondary ball handler though.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have somebody maybe like a Drew or Alonzo, I think that lineup could work. I think even with Chris Paul, because again, Devin Booker was a main ball handler for the Suns for years. He was the main ball handler.
But here's the difference with the Suns. They have Chris Paul and they have Devin Booker facilitating and setting up majority of their offense. That's two guys, right? Everyone else are going to be like, Mikal Bridges. He's not going to have the ball in his hands to facilitate the offense, right? Ayton, he's not going to do that either. Right, so I think you need to have at least two guys. That's what I'm saying. If you envision Cam and RJ being those two dudes, why would you have another ball dominant guy at the point guard position? Right. So for me, I like Jalen Brunson. To me, Jalen Brunson would be a good fit. I think Fred VanVleet, if he was available, that'll be a good fit. A player like George Hill, that'll be a good fit. Somebody who does not
George Hill, bro. Not George Hill. No.
Well, I'm talking about that type of player that doesn't need the ball in their hands. A point guard that's like if you look at Philadelphia, for example, when they had Simmons and Seth Curry, like Simmons was their primary ball handler, right? They also had Tobias Harris who can put the ball down on the floor, and their point guard was Seth Curry. Seth Curry's not setting up anybody and not doing like anything like that, so he's a secondary ball handler. When you look at Boston, they got two wings. They got Jaylen Brown and they got Jason Tatum. And right now, one of the reasons why it's really working, why it hasn't been working the past few years, their 3-point guys have been Kemba Walker, who's ball dominant, Kyrie Irving, who's ball dominant, and now they got Dennis Schroeder, or they had Dennis Schroeder. And you've seen that since they got rid of him and they start using him less, they've been much better, right? Because I think if you have more than 3 guys or 3 guys or more in the same lineup, I think that just complicates things way too much. Even in Oklahoma City, when they had Harden, KD, and Westbrook, Harden came off the bench. So again, I like Ivy. I'm not dissing Ivy. I think the Ivy can play. He can ball. But if you bring in Jaden Ivey, to me, I just don't see a reason to keep Cam Reddish around. And I know I did say Cam Reddish or RJ, one of those two. But again, I'm just saying 2 guys to me is the max that you need to set your offense up through. Look at Chicago. They got DeRozan and they got Levine. Both of them 30% usage rate. And their point guard is Lonzo Ball. Right, so that's the lens that I'm looking at it. We're going to talk a little bit more about what the Knicks are doing in the offseason. Before we get to that, though, I'm going to highlight some of these comments. Salute to Tricky Nicky, who said RJ is only a kid. Yes, 21 years old. David L says this offseason got some decent shooting guard free agents. Okay. T. Williams said if we get Ivy, it will be his team. Okay, where does Cam Reddish fit in that situation? Right. Margaret Edwards says RJ Barrett needs to be consistent. He needs to have 30-point game in every single game, and I think that's going to come. I'm not really possible, but okay. I'm not worried about that right now for RJ. My thing is just his mentality. He wants him to score 30.
But I don't understand what she's talking about. He's been consistent for like over 2 months now.
Yeah. I don't know what she's talking about either. But hopefully she'll expound on that in the chat. Rich Jim says Josh is one of those people that was hating on RJ. Okay, I'm not going to go there. Kaiser Sosa, here's the thing. If you're considering potential, why would you think Randall in year 7 is going to have more than RJ Barrett in year 3? I don't get what he's asking me here.
Yeah, I don't think nobody said that.
Well, he said it. This is his comment. He said if you're considering, you don't think, okay, yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. Let's see. Someone said something funny that I wanted to highlight. Rich Gem said, Josh, he always had that mentality since day one. Not true. Not true. There was times where RJ Barrett would literally go missing on the offensive end. Literally go missing on the offensive end. And I don't want to hear that it's because Tibbs put him in the corner. I don't want to hear that. I don't think that was the reason why. He just was not ready yet. He was not ready to take over the reins of the team, particularly with Randall out there doing this thing. You know, RJ Barrett was a supplementary kind of player. He was not at that level. His mentality was not always there. And sometimes it takes time to grow into that. That's what me and Isaiah were just talking about. Let's see. Hector Gaston says, how would you build around and also keep Randy as a safety? Because keeping Randall still gives us strength moving ahead. Keeping Randall around still helps us. And I agree with that. See, a lot of people were questioning the fact that we gave Randall the extension. And I think the Knicks at the time, to me, it was a smart idea for them to give them a team-friendly extension because now, one, you are above the salary floor, right? Because you have to spend a certain amount of money in the NBA per the CBA. And two, Julius Randle is, to me, he is worth $20 to $25 million per season. Based on the numbers that he's putting up and the impact that he has on the floor, he absolutely deserves that money. No question about that at all, right? I just don't like the fit between RJ and Randle now that Randle has taken a step up.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Isaiah.
Oh no, this is gonna be my last one, Jones. Before
yeah. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no. See, I want to answer your question that you're about to ask.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next segment, and it's going to feed off what we're talking about with RJ. So being that we both think that we should build with RJ or around RJ as the 1A, 1B, or however you want to slice it, what should the Knicks front office do in the offseason to support him? Right? I know I already touched on it. I think they need to bring in a secondary ball handler at the point guard position. Jalen Brunson is who I'm looking at. Malcolm Brogdon will be a good fit. I know he's under contract for 3 more seasons or what have you. A George Hill type of point guard who doesn't need the ball as much. That's what I'm looking forward to the Knicks doing. If they do want to bring in someone else that's ball dominant, you would have to get rid of Randall at that point, right? So I'm that's my little tidbits on that. But Isaiah, I know you got to go soon, so I'm gonna have you answer this question first. What should the front office do in the offseason?
You're gonna be mad at me, Josh, because I'm gonna leave you on something that I won't be able to really answer it fully. I won't be able to respond. So me personally, I think this offseason the Knicks should do is trade Randall, even though it's probably gonna be tough because his contract is just gonna be new. And then you gotta fire Thibs. I think you fire Thibs and you get you get a Kenny Atkinson type of guy. I get a Kenny Atkinson type of guy, and you do that. You maybe get a Kenny Atkinson possibly, and then you find a way to get Randall out of here, and you start again doing that with those young guys. And I'll be honest with you, I think you probably win more games than you do this year. If you have a younger roster with wings and everything like that, with Grimes and Reddish. But yeah, I think that's what you should do. So I do apologize because I know you want to respond, and I know, but I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, Gavin. I appreciate you, Chad. I'm gonna leave you with that. We're gonna have another one. We're gonna have another one though, but I'm gonna leave you with that.
We will, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you coming on, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Me and Gavin are going to talk about this at length a little bit, so hopefully you're able to tune in while you go do whatever you have to do. But I appreciate you coming on, bro. Thank you.
Definitely tune in.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, be safe too. Have a good one.
All right, Gavin, tell me what you think about this. The front office, being that you think that the Knicks should build with RJ, what do you think the front office should do to support and or supplement RJ Barrett?
I think one of the first things, and it's not just for building with RJ, I think that one thing is we need to address our center position.
Okay.
I do not believe that Mitch is going to be here next year. I think that he will be walking in free agency, and I think once he's gone, we don't have a starting center. I love Sims and what he could bring to this team, but right now he's not ready to be a starter in this league.
Right.
He will be a very good backup, but I think that we do need to address who are we going to put at that 5 spot. Like I said, if we're gonna have, Barrett driving to the basket so much, on the left or the right side, you do have somebody that needs to be able to stretch out and clear that paint, so that way you don't always have 2 defenders. And more so, the reason I say stretching it out is because when RJ drives to the basket, unlike somebody like Quickly or Kemba, he's not looking to throw it up to Mitch. Like, he's looking to go and finish through 2 defenders and draw the contact. So. And I wouldn't say he's getting better at finishing the rim, but I wouldn't say it's at the elite level yet. And with him not being consistent at the free throw line, I think you just need to move that extra defender out of the way. I
You're
would
talking
like to.
about Mitch. You're
I
talking
would
about
like.
Mitch.
Yeah. Getting his defender out of the way. So I think that first we need to address who we put at the 5 spot. When we say a point guard, the thing to me, because like I said, Tibbs, his rosters that he has, he runs the ball, his offense through who is giving him the most points or productivity on the offensive side. So for
Right.
me, having a ball dominant point guard, unless they're putting up consistent offensive numbers that are better than RJ, I don't think that it makes sense to have a ball dominant point guard, because I believe that RJ can be ball dominant and be a playmaker like he was at Duke. Because, like I said, I think that he's better when he has control of the game and he's able to make the decisions. So, to me, what I'm looking for is a floor general. Now, typically it's a point guard, but that's not always the case. Like we see, probably one of the biggest examples, and he's probably once in a generational floor general that you'll have every so often, is a Draymond Green. He's not a point guard, but he is a great floor general at putting people in spaces. Even though LeBron runs the point, he is a floor general, and he's somebody who navigates the floor. Chris Paul, like you said, even though he's still secondary to what Devin Booker, because you have Devin Booker running the point, he's a floor general. So I think that we need somebody like that. And I think we need a dog on defense. I don't think that next year Fournier is going to cut it. Because every year the points per game in the NBA goes up every single year, and
Right.
I mean, it's cool if Fournier is giving us 20, 22 a night, but if he's giving up 32 a night, it's a moot point at that point. I'm not really one for firing Tibbs, only because when you're talking about building a culture of a team, you can't just consistently have a revolving door of coaches coming in and out. Like one example is, so the college team that I was part of, scouting and player development, they brought in a new coach. Dude by the name of Jim Jaber took Dayton to multiple NCAA appearances and everything. The first year he came in, he had seniors who were still there who didn't want to buy into the system, who were just there just because they weren't really being a part of the team. And we had freshmen who were better than the seniors, but he trusts the seniors more, almost like a Tibbs. He trusts the seniors more because they've been playing college basketball way longer. I think we won like 7 games that season. Second season in, he got all of them out, got his type of players in that he wanted. We had the youngest roster in college basketball with 4 freshmen and a sophomore starting. Won 2 games that year because you're playing with such young people. Third year he
Right.
goes 4 games above 500 because now he's had a year of those people under his system, and he was able to change the mentality of them and get them to buy in. Shifting over to the 4th year, he leaves. They bring in a new coach with a new philosophy. They've won 3 games this year. So
Right.
having a consistent coach does translate into a consistent franchise. And that's when people say, people like Pop, people like Spoelstra, now Steve Kerr. It's because the organizations have just entrusted in them that these guys know what they're doing. Now, I will say that Tibbs just needs to make the adjustment. His offense is antiquated, but I am not one for firing him because I would like to build up with him because, like I said, especially when we have so many young players. RJ, who's so young, Quickly, who you're still trying to get him to figure it out. Somebody like Grimes, Cam is still young. You can't consistently every year keep putting different coaching philosophies into a player's head.
Right.
That just doesn't work.
Right. I got you. So, I mean, this is very layered, right? So, as regards to Tibbs, I'm going to answer the question in regards to the front office and what should they do, assuming Tibbs is still here. Let's assume Tibbs is still here. So I agree with you that we need a dog, right? So a guy that can just be a dog out there on the floor, right? Sam mentioned earlier in the season, Patrick Beverley. I thought Patrick Beverley would have been a good piece to have here, right? He is a secondary ball handler type of point guard. He's not really going to set the offense up and do anything like that. He really doesn't need the ball, but he's a dog out there. On defense, he's a dog, and he is not afraid to take some things up, right? So I definitely agree with you from that standpoint. Stretch 5. 100% agree. I absolutely agree that we need a stretch 5 out there because if you watch the Knicks play, because Mitchell Robinson can't create his own shot, he doesn't have any type of offensive game whatsoever. Most of his points come off of rebounds, second chance points, the lob, you know what I'm saying? To me, I just think we need someone who can stretch the floor out to open those lanes up for RJ and assuming Randall is still here, right? Third thing, to me, a primary a facilitator, floor general type of point guard does not have to have a high usage rate. Does not have to have a primary ball down. Well, you need to have some sort of a ball dominant role, but you're not going to take that many shots, right? You're not going to take as many shots. I look at a player like a Ricky Rubio, right? To me, Ricky Rubio would be a really good fit because he is a good floor general. He doesn't need the ball in his hands a lot, right? But he can get his guys set up in good positions, stuff like that. So to me, it matters the type of point guard you bring in here, right? If we're talking, let's say the Knicks had Ja Morant on this team right now. Ja Morant comes here, you're taking the ball out of RJ's hands because Ja Morant needs to have the ball, right? So it doesn't matter the type of point guard you bring in here. I'm looking at Jalen Brunson. I think that should be target number 1 for the Knicks this offseason. I think bringing him in will definitely make a difference. I know it's not flashy or a big splash move, but to me, he is the perfect fit next to RJ Barrett because he does not need to have the ball in his hands. Malcolm Brogdon, I already mentioned him earlier, a player like a George Hill. I like that type of player. To me, Jaden Ivey needs to have the ball in his hands to be effective. He needs to have the ball in his hands. And if you envision a lineup with him, RJ, and Cam Reddish, to me, I just think there's only one basketball and not enough touches to go around with having those 3 guys out there. Plus Randall. You know what I'm saying? So,
and I think that's the hardest thing that it comes to in the NBA is now as the NBA progresses, most people are just ball dominant. You don't have too many people who are just secondary ball handlers and who really know how to play off the ball. So it's hard when you're really picking from all ball dominant people, and then you're trying to go after Jalen Brunson, who's the 1 or 2 people who are not ball dominant, and you're hoping you can get them. And so it's like it's trying to figure out people who are ball dominant that also know how to play off of the ball.
Right.
Like to me, and I just don't think that RJ is fully at that level yet where he knows how to still put up the numbers he's putting, at least efficiently, when he doesn't fully have the ball in his hands. But I mean, like I said, a lineup with all ball dominant people is very hard. Like you said, somebody's taking touches away.
Somebody's going to lose touches. Exactly. Yeah.
And like I said, like I like Fournier. Like I think that Fournier is a good person who plays off the ball. The thing with Fournier is he's not consistent.
Yeah.
And I would rather have somebody like people say like Deuce. I would rather have somebody who's only going to give up a handful of points on the defensive side if they give me nothing on offense. Because if I give up 50, but we score 51, I'm good with that. And so I like Fournier for this offense. I'm to your point. I like RJ with the second unit because he's somebody who likes to run and get out in transition. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're going to have to figure out is really what's going to be our first and second units for next year. Do you see a 3 of like a RJ, Cam, and a Grimes all being starters next year?
Right.
Can you envision that?
I mean, I guess anything's possible, right? Anything is possible in that scenario. RJ is going to be there, right? So that's, everyone, that's going to happen. I don't think RJ Barrett's going to the bench next season. I don't think it'll be smart for the Knicks to do that, right? I think at this point, we know what he can do offensively as a starter, as a focal point of the offense, so he's not going anywhere, right? So really what you're figuring out is Cam or Grimes. Grimes, to me, as far as Tom Thibodeau is concerned, Grimes, to me, fits better than Cam Reddish at this point because Grimes can give you that shooting touch. His jump shot to me is pure, right? And I think he's going to be in the 3-point contest next year. He gives you the defense right now at this current point in time. He does not need the basketball in his hands. So to me, that works better than Cam Reddish at this point, right? To me, I do think Cam Reddish has a lot more potential, as far as growth, all that stuff. But again, we're talking about touches and who's going to have the ball in their hands and, taking touches away from RJ, stuff like that. So I really can't see it, all 3 of those guys being there. I mean, like I said, anything is possible. But, in that type of scenario, when you want to get RJ on a fast break a little bit more, you would have to move Randall, right? Because Randall is just not, to me, I don't think Randall can fit doing that, in that type of stuff, that style of basketball, in my opinion, right? If you're going to go that route, you're going to need someone who's less ball dominant in that type of lineup at the 4, right? Maybe Obi can work and grow into that position, right? So, I don't know. It's going to be a tough decision next year for them to make. Mind you, Cam Reddish is coming up on the contract year, right? So I mentioned this in a different podcast. You know, if you want to start or see what Cam Reddish has at his disposal, next year is going to be the year to do it. You have to, because a year after that, he needs to get paid.
And that's what I'm saying. I think
Cam. Yep.
I think one thing that the front office should figure out the biggest thing, figure out what direction we're going. Are we going young? What are we doing? But I think that assuming that Randall is still here and Cam is going to be a big part of next year, I think you need to look and see what can you get for Obi, because he's not playing that much anyway, but behind Randall. Now with Cam, with his minutes increasing, then really where are you going to play Obi at? And I think that he needs to be in an offense that is just consistent, like a Memphis, like a OKC, people who like to get out and run the floor. And he's somebody who needs to be with a point guard that's like a Kemba, that's like a Quickly, that has the passing ability, just because his offensive game right now is not where it is to be able to create his own shot. He's almost like a Mitch. Like, without a point guard, their offensive numbers are not that great. They're not really creating those shots.
You're talking about Grimes, right?
No, Obi.
Oh, Obi, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Without point guards, because Obi's not going to take it upon himself to try and beat his man off the dribble and go finish at the rim. You know,
Right.
And once we have more and more ball dominant point guards, especially if they're ball dominant, or not point guards, just ball dominant players, especially if they're not ball dominant people who look for alley oops, because most ball dominant people do not look to throw lobs at the rim, because they're worried about driving in, beating their man, and finishing up. Or the NBA has become so inside out where they're driving and dishing it.
Right.
So I think that it's to the detriment of Obi's career that he stays somewhere here, who we're not having a point guard who's looking for him all the time. And I think that next year, if Obi is here, I think that Cam takes Obi's minutes next year. And like I said, being the fact that you don't have him running with Quickly, now it's like now Obi is almost like a Kevin Knox. He's just sitting on the bench, not playing. Because Tibbs just, I don't know what it is with him and Obi, but he's not going to play him over Randall. And now with the emergence of what I think that he knows that Cam can do, because Obi's ceiling may be higher just because he fully hasn't put everything together. But I think that you know what you're going to get with Cam. And as Knicks fans, as we're always win now, I think Cam gives you better production on the offensive side, because he can run the break. He is a playmaker, and he can create his own shot for himself.
Gotcha. And we're going to talk a little bit about Obi in the next for the next question. We're going to talk about the young core when we can highlight some of these comments. Isaiah Ellis says, thank you. He says, Knicks need an offensive coordinator. Okay. All right. So, someone to assist Tibbs, right? And, I want to talk about Tibbs a little bit too. We're going to get to that. John from Knicks fan salute. He says, we need a point guard that can play solid enough defense, knock down an open shot, and facilitate off the pick and roll. I absolutely agree with that. Doesn't need to be a star. Doesn't need to be someone who dominates the ball like a John Morant type. We just need a player like that. And I think that'll complement RJ, Cam.
I will say to that, the point guard, like, Quickly does do those things. He just doesn't have the shot selection for it.
Right.
But Quickly can hit down, and he just hasn't been consistent yet. That was his main role at Kentucky. I would say Quickly is a great point guard and player in the pick and roll, because he's looking for pocket passes, and he usually runs it with athletic bigs. And his defense has gotten better, but he just hasn't gotten to the consistency of where we think that's who we're looking for.
Gotcha. And we're going to talk a little bit about Quickly and Obi for this next question. Let me just finish up these comments real quick. Alton Lee says, we're in trouble talking about giving Jalen Brunson $50 million. To me, that's not. Jalen Brunson can get $15 million a year, a season. I have no problem with giving Jalen Brunson that. Look at what Fred VanVleet got. I think he got 18 to 20. I think he got more than that, right? To fill that role, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying Jalen Brunson is going to be a Fred VanVleet. VanVleet is a champion, came up big for them in the finals, but Fred VanVleet doesn't need the basketball. Right, he's a shooter. He's going to knock down shots, make smart passes, run pick and roll. So I have no problem with giving Jalen Brunson that money. John from Still Knicks fans think Cam needs to come off the bench. So I'm assuming he'll rather start Grimes. Okay. And let's see what else we got here. JRU says, salute panel. I disagree that RJ is not ready. I think he is and should be that leader who players will follow. Okay, he's developing into that. MB Israel says RJ at point. And that's the thing. RJ Barrett can be you can be a primary ball handler and not be a point guard. I don't think that people are really fully understanding that.
And that's where the NBA is heading now. Is
right.
People are running the point who are not point guards by position.
Right. Seth Curry is a great example of that. Ohead says RJ needs to play small shooting guard with Grimes. He has to guard small forwards, which is why Cam might be a better fit. I think Grimes can guard some small forwards. He's a really good defender, always active out there on the floor. I think Grimes can definitely do that. T. Williams says Ivy been the only one saying tank for Jaden Ivey. Oh, I think he's saying he's been the only one saying tank for Jaden Ivey. I've been for the start of the season. And let's see, let's get one more in here. T. Williams says, bro, IQ ain't no point guard. Even Ray Charles can see that. That's funny. But I think IQ can develop into that role. Someone who doesn't need to have the ball in their hands, can come off screening rolls, knock down shots, get better with his passing. I think all that stuff will come. And that's why if everyone wants me to be patient with RJ Barrett, how come you can't show some patience for IQ, who's 22 years old, second year in the NBA? I think people need to give him a little bit of a little bit of a chance. But speaking of IQ and Obi, I know you mentioned Obi. Talk to me about this Knicks young core. Who do you like? Who do you not like? What do you think the Knicks should do as far as the young core moving forward? Because to me, I think they have a promising young core. But give me your take on the Knicks young core.
I like, for sure, have to stay is I like RJ and Grimes. I like Cam. Cam is just that type of player where I think almost like a quickly in the standpoint of you have to let him be him. And I need Cam to get up shots because I think that's just the type of player he is. He is better, and that's why you'll see him come in playing in 5 minutes and he'll throw up an air ball, 2 air balls, or a shot that hits the side of the back more. It's just because he's not putting the ball on the floor. So your very first shot and you're only coming in for 2-3 minutes. I like to see Cam get more minutes. Next year, I need to see Grimes getting the number of shots that Fournier's putting. I think Fournier's averaging almost 14 shots a game this year, like in between 12 and 13. Like that. And Grimes is averaging like 5 to 7 shots a game. I need to see Grimes put up at least 10 to 12 shots a game. My biggest jump for next year, the person I want to see take that leap is quickly from a decision-making standpoint. And I think it was T. Williams said that IQ can't play point guard. I think the term point guard has just become so misconstrued in today's NBA.
Yeah, amongst Knicks fans. Knicks fans, it definitely is misconstrued.
When people say point guard, I think that they're thinking of the classic sense of a point guard, Steve
Nash,
like
the
Chris
Jason
Paul,
Kidd, the
Steve
Chris
Nash,
Paul,
Chris Paul. People are now playing like LeBron is a point guard because he is the one facilitating the offense for the Lakers. So technically, he is playing in the point guard role. I guess now we can just say combo guards. Really, the only thing that I want to see from Quickly next year is just calm down. To me, Quickly is just that kid that he's just excited that he's out there and playing in the NBA. And he hasn't fully wrapped his head around, to me, what's going on. I think his court awareness and situation awareness needs to be a lot better. And I think that if he can hone in taking good shots, I think that you'll see his numbers going up. I will say one thing that I hate about how the NBA has gone is like when they say Steph Curry ruined the game of basketball, you have like IQ is out here pulling up from 6-7 feet behind the line. Like, bro, come in, set your feet, and take a good shot. I think we have a good young core. I'd like to see what McBride can do for us. I don't think he definitely will not be a starter, but if we get a person like a Jalen Brunson, I do think that McBride is worthy of being a backup, solely because of what he's going to do for you on the defensive side. I'm not anticipating that he's going to give us a lot of offense. But I would like to see him get more of those minutes. But I do think that Cam or RJ and Grimes need to be the focal points of our offense. And I think that you have to, if we're going to let Quickly be Quickly, we have to realize that Cam is going to be Cam. And I just hope that Knicks fans are aware that this journey with Cam is going to be very up and down. Cam is going to be like quick a little bit. Like there's games that Cam's going to go off for 20, and there's going to be games that Cam's going to go out there and shoot 1 for 12. He's not fully a consistent player at this level yet either, but he is also a very young person. But I think that our young guys just need to continue to play more, and it's kind of like what we're seeing with RJ. The more and more reps that they get is the more and more comfortable they get with the ball.
Got you. Okay. So I think the Knicks definitely have a promising young core. I think a lot of these players, people, the Knicks, and some of these Knicks fans in the chat don't want to hear it, but a lot of y'all have favorites, right? It's all about favoritism, right? You're willing to be patient with one person and not be patient with someone else. Immanuel Quickley is 22 years old, right? Had a really good season in his rookie year, made the all rookie team, one of those top 15 rookies or whatever, right? So I think he has a lot of potential there. I like the fact that he is not afraid, right? He came out the gate, and then in those preseason games, he literally took the backup point guard spot from DSJ and Frank Ntilikina, right? So I like the fact that he's not scared out the gate. He is not afraid to let it fly. I just think that he's not shooting well right now, and some of his decision-making needs some work. But he's only 22 years old. So I think people should be a little bit patient with that. Please don't judge Immanuel Quickley right now, and just give it a little bit of time. I said the same thing about Kevin Knox, right? Kevin Knox, to me, I thought he could have contributed to the team last year because of his ability to shoot. Very lengthy, right? It's just that Tibbs wasn't feeling him for some reason, probably making some mistakes in practice or whatever. But I'm willing to give these kids some time and let them grow a little bit, right? Everyone wants to see Deuce McBride play, right? But when he gets out there on the floor and he doesn't do what you think he's going to do, or that he's not that much of an improvement from what we have right now, then all of a sudden, you want to get rid of him and trade him at the first sign of whatever, right? So be a little bit patient with the process and let everything work itself out. As far as Cam Reddish is concerned, I know he's going to be up and down, but again, he has a pending contract coming up. So, I mean, next season, he has to show some improvement or show some consistency next season before we're talking about paying him, right? So that's why it's pivotal if Cam Reddish can come out next season and have a really good season and be a contributor, because outside of that, I really wouldn't be comfortable with the Knicks paying him to do that. Let me highlight this super chat from Trav B. Ryan before we get to the last question of the podcast. Salute to Trav B. Ryan for the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, keep the same patience y'all were preaching for with RJ when it comes to IQ. He is still young and trying to develop new skills. Give him time. IQ is the future. And I agree with that. I'm willing to be patient with IQ. Kid 22 years old, still on his rookie contract, one of Tibbs' favorite players. Tibbs definitely liked him coming out of the draft and immediately put him in there because of his aggressiveness. So I think there's something there. Let's be a little bit patient.
And
T.
real
Williams
quick,
says,
I think that one thing.
Yep.
I would say I think that one thing that us fans need to be conscious of is when these players, especially when you're talking about young kids like Quickley, who's 22, RJ, who's 21, the jump from the college to the NBA level, the game and the pace of the game is much faster. So you're seeing it now with RJ, and you'll hear commentators talking about letting the game come to you and the game slowing down for people. The game is just now starting to slow down for RJ. And that's why I think that Quickley, like I said, when he looks like he hasn't fully wrapped his mind around it, is the game has not slowed down for Quickley. And because it hasn't slowed down, I think he's trying to keep up to a pace that he's just not ready for yet. So I think that that's where patience comes from. And you have to realize, like I said, that there's a different pace of play. And with a different pace of play and intensity comes a different train of thought and how quickly you're able to make decisions and put things together on the court. But I think that now that Quickley has 2 seasons under his belt, like we're seeing with RJ, you'll see the game slow down for him a lot more. And especially when he's in the offseason, he has time to sit down with the coordinators and watch and break down film. I think that next year we'll see his decision-making become a lot better.
Agreed. Question everything said, Josh, you said that the Knicks had a better core than the Grizzlies. I never said that. I said I like the Knicks situation as far as their books, as far as what they're doing with their cap situation. I like that better than the Grizzlies. And that's why I said I like the Knicks situation. I never said the Knicks had a better core than the Grizzlies. So get your facts straight. B. Willis says, no unnecessary threes from Cam. Coach knows he can get to the basket. Tell him to play within himself to get comfortable. Okay. JRU says, I think that if Tibbs saw McBride was responsible in a way that he can be a general on the floor, I feel like he needs more time. But Tibbs doesn't feel that way, right? And I was arguing with someone on Twitter about this in regards to McBride and Sims because salute to guy Ariel. He does a phenomenal job breaking down X's and O's on Twitter with some of these plays, doing the threads about RJ and about quickly and about Mitch and some of this stuff on Twitter. So definitely salute my boy Ariel. He does a phenomenal job. But I seen a video where they tried to run a pistol set for RJ, and Sims was supposed to come over and be the screener, but Sims was going somewhere else, and Tibbs lost his mind, right? And then called a timeout because I guess we turned it over, and Sims went on the bench, and Tibbs was yelling at him, right? And to me, that's all a part of coaching. And it happens, and to me, I think it happens at every single level. There's going to be players that it just takes a little bit longer to get it and to understand it. And if someone responded to me and said that if he was getting playing time early in the season, he wouldn't be making those mistakes. He's been making those mistakes in practice. That's why he hasn't been playing, right? And that's why, coaches get frustrated and they are a little bit harder on players like that because they see this stuff in practice every single day. Just because us as the fan base is not looking at these guys playing in games does not mean that they're not doing these mistakes in practice. So I just need people to understand that practice exists, and there's a reason why guys like Sims and guys like McBride are not getting time, because they're probably making some mistakes in practice. If McBride can help us right now on the floor, if the coach feels that way, he would be out there, no doubt. This is not about Tibbs hating the front office and hating this player. I think Tibbs is the coach, and if he feels that this kid can help us, then he'll put him out there on the floor. Another comment in regards to Tibbs that I want to talk about real quick is I'm all for the Knicks fire. I mean, I want to keep Tibbs. Don't get me wrong. I want to keep him. But if the Knicks decide to move on from him, I would rather them hire someone from within the organization rather than going out to someone else, because then you got to bring in a whole new coaching staff, whole new playbook, stuff like that. I think you can move on from Tibbs as the coach as long as you bring someone like a Johnny Bryant or someone from within the coaching staff to keep some of those same philosophies and cultures, a culture available in the building. Now, last question we're going to talk about before we get out of here. I know we've been on for like an hour, so we're going to ask this last question, and then we'll close it out. But obviously, this has been a disappointing season. So moving forward for the rest of the season, the 19 or 20 games that we have left, what are you expecting to see? What do you want to see? And is there anything that we can take away from this season moving forward, Gavin?
I know how the fans feel with tanking all this. The one thing that I'll tell you one thing I don't want to see from this team is I don't just want to see them give up because we're not making the playoffs. Like I said, I think you still play to win and you still go out there to win every game. So I still want to see good shots, good ball movement. I want to see RJ continue I think that if RJ keeps this up and he averages 20 to 22 through the rest of the season, I feel confident in saying that's what he'll give us next year. Because I will say that'll be almost a 4-month sample size, 4.5 month sample size. Basically at least after the All-Star break, almost half the season. I need to see. I want to see what the dynamic is for the rest of the year between Randall and RJ, because I will say right now that it doesn't look that good on the court. I know that there have been like some clips on Twitter where Randall will be calling for the ball and RJ will look him off, or there was I think after a foul, Randall went up to him and was like, had his hands up like, "Yo, I'm open." And at this point, I'd like to see McBride play. At least once we're mathematically eliminated from the play-in. Once we're mathematically eliminated, I'd like to see Deuce play, because at that point, it doesn't hurt us whether we win or lose games, and at least you know what we have going in. And I'd like to see more minutes from Obi. Not Obi, Cam. I would just like to see what we have from these guys, because if we're not going to make the play-in, it doesn't matter if we go out there and lose every single game with them. I at least want them to get minutes under their belt, so that way we know what they're going into next season. At least they get some NBA experience. So next year, when we're saying we're putting all this pressure on them, which we will be doing next year because they are going to play next year, and especially if Randall's gone, I want them to at least have some experience with the game. So I'd rather them make their mistakes now with these last, 10, 15, 20 games, whatever we have, so that way it doesn't carry over as much as next year.
All right, so let me ask you a hypothetical question now, right? Because I still think, let's see how many games the Knicks out of that 10th spot. Let's see. We are, looks like 3 or 4 games out of that 4th spot. Oh, yeah, we're 4 games out of the 4th spot, out of the 10th spot, right? What if we become mathematically eliminated 1 week prior to the season's ending? Then we're talking 2 or 3 games, right? Do you think that's enough, right? So if that's what you're saying, that you want to wait till we, if that's what they're doing, are you okay with that 2 or 3 games to where we put McBride out there on the floor? Do you think that's enough for people to get an idea about what his development, stuff like that?
I would not. I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough. But I will say that like I said, being a player of the game for my whole life. My dad was a college player, college coach. I've been on a college coaching staff. I don't think that you just throw in the towel just because on paper it doesn't. A lot of things have to go right for us in order to make that 10th seed. But I mean, looking at the teams above us, Atlanta right now is playing bad basketball. And we're playing good basketball. We're just not winning games. So if we continue to put up these close games and we can find a way to pull some of these games out and Atlanta keeps playing, I don't think that it's all impossible that we don't make the play-in. But I'm just not somebody that says, hey, let's throw people out there, like Steph says, for a training ground. And some people will say, well, we don't know what McBride will give us. But I'm not the coach. And if Tibbs is saying he trusts Alec Burks out there, regardless if he gives the production or not, I would rather, and people are probably going to hate me for this, I would rather at least lose with Alec Burks in a trusted sense than like you see with Sims out there where they're calling for pistol and he doesn't know what to go do. So what happens if we put Deuce out there and there's an offensive play and he doesn't know what to do? Like, then what are we going to do? So I'm not one that just tank. I think that you play every game to win. And if Tibbs thinks that Burks at the point guard gives him the best position, then like people say, I'm a Knicks fan through and through. I'm going to rock with the team. I'm going to rock with this player. I'm going to rock with Tibbs and trust Tibbs that he knows what he's doing.
Gotcha. Jay Boogie, the closer, says, shout out to the chat and the panel. Hit that like. Major Jewels being dropped tonight. Salute. 3 capital S's. Salute, Jay Boogie. Appreciate you. Make sure you go check out Jay Boogie's music. Dope, music that he has for the team and for all the podcasters out there. Really appreciate you, Jay Boogie, and I look forward to that game in Charlotte. I'm definitely gonna hit you up about that because we going. Kaiser Sose says every other team in the league rebuilds and gives their youth time. No, not quite. Knicks Nation 112. Knox dominated as a rookie, and we the fan base killed them and ran him out of town. Cass will say, what is he doing with the Hawks? The Hawks was seeking room for their roster. They made the Eastern Conference Finals without Knox. Don Hines says, you've been at practices? No, I haven't been at practices, but I know how organized team sports works. And I know what coaching staffs are talking about and what they're thinking about. They're doing everything they can to try to win games now. And if the coach feels like McBride is not ready, right, and he's going to be out there making mistakes, to me, it just doesn't benefit the team and for them, to win games, right? So I understand that standpoint of it. None of us have been at the practice. We don't know what's going on. And that's all I'm trying to say. We look at what we see on the screen during games, and we tend to judge what Thibodeau is doing from that, but we don't know everything else that's behind it. So I'm just saying, be patient. McBride is going to get his time. If not with us, with someone else. Margaret Edwards says she wants to see the kids play. I want to see the kids play too. Don't get me wrong. I want to see McBride out there. I want to see Sims out there. I do. I'm just understanding it from Tibbs' perspective as a coach, why those guys have not been playing. They're rookies. They're young. They're probably making a lot of mistakes in practice. And when they're in games, they've been making mistakes, right? When we started McBride in the Oklahoma City game, right when Randall went down due to his health and safety protocols, McBride was out there making a ton of mistakes, right? So I'm just saying, just be a little bit patient. Rick James, this guy is such a Tibbs and Randall fanboy. Glad to be gone soon. Yeah, whatever. Kevon Bergen says we're already mathematically eliminated. Just on paper, it's over. I agree with you. Kaiser Sose wants to see McBride, and let me get 2 more in here. Keith Turner says define being ready. I think he was talking to you with that question. So define what you mean by being ready.
To me, being ready, the example of Sims, by saying Sims is not ready. When a play is called and you don't know your playbook and you don't know what to do, you're not ready. Because yes, it happened on one instance that we have footage that somebody clipped of. But what happens when that turns into 5, 6, 7 possessions? If the center is supposed to come up and set the screen, and that's the way that the play is designed to be run. If you have Randall coming from the wing to come set the screen, now that's not how the play was designed to be run. So now that changes up something in the play. So for me, being ready is understanding what to do in these certain situations. I mean, for McBride though, I don't have an answer for McBride. I think that's just a Tibbs thing, and like Josh says, people just think that um, by saying, "Oh, well, we don't know what's going on in practice," but like you said, you don't have to be in practice to understand how organized sports works. And when you understand how organizations are run, how player dynamics, how coaching staff dynamics work, it's not just a one-off. My thought goes. There is, like people call them, there's business processes. There's a way that things go, and it's not just, oh, the fans want him, let's put him out there for a training ground. No. And the one thing I like about Tibbs is he is that player that makes you prove yourself, because like you say, if Tibbs trusts you, that means that you've solidified that you know what you're doing and you're good, and he is fully capable and comfortable with putting you out there. I won't say with the game on the line, but when it matters. And then just to highlight somebody's comment, Bogota, they said, what do we making the play in for what? So we can lose. See, to me, like statement like that is like a losing mentality.
Absolutely.
Like it's not. We're not
Absolutely.
just. We're the point of making the play in is highlighting the fact that you fought to get there. Whether or not we lose and get eliminated, which if we make the play in, probably are going to get eliminated. But it's just the fact that you didn't throw in the towel and we're just saying we're gonna lose just because let's just lose just because we already lost. Like that's a losing mentality. So like I can't really talk basketball with Knicks fans who are for, oh, let's just tank so that we can get a better pick in the draft, or let's just not make the playing game because we're gonna lose anyway. Like to me, that's a losing mentality all around to me, that you're just not going to give effort because it doesn't look like you can win the fight.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. As someone who played sports and played organized sports, in high school was a starter on. I played football, both sides of the ball, and we went to the championship game and we lost by 1 point. I just hate that mentality, and I just don't understand it at all. And to Margaret Edwards' comment, she says Randall's turning the ball over 10 times a game. It's okay. Obi makes one mistake and he's out. Margaret, let me ask you a question. Does Obi Toppin think he's better than Julius Randle? Because that's a part of it too, right? It's about where these players fit in that hierarchy in the locker room, right? If Obi Toppin feels that he's better than Julius Randle, I will be with you 100%, because then he has a legitimate beef with the coach at that point. I'm better than this dude, and you playing this dude over me because he's, and he's getting 10 turnovers a game. Then I would understand your point. But if Obi Toppin doesn't feel like he's better than Randle, why would, people have to understand that dynamic in the locker room. Like the veterans, they command respect in the locker room. And Julius Randle, even with that 10 turnovers a game, is still going to get you 19 and 10. Still going to be a threat, and other teams are going to key in him on the defensive side. Obi not at that level yet. So again, people have to understand the dynamics of coaching and why coaches choose, to yell at the rookies a little bit more than they do the veteran guys. Because I'll say it, I said it before and I'll say it again. If you lose the veterans or you lose the senior members of your locker room, you lost the entire team. That is true in every level of organized sports, in professional sports and the collegiate level, and in high school. If you lose your seniors, if you lose your veterans, you have lost the entire team. Because those freshmen and those younger guys are looking up to those veteran guys.
So Margaret, she said, I'm saying Tibbs doesn't hold Randall accountable for turnovers. I don't think that it's about holding him accountable. It's the fact of knowing that Randall is a 19 and 10 player. Our chances are better
with him on the floor
than with
yes.
Than with Obi in the game. Listen, as ugly as it is, Randall is 19 and 10. Obi's not giving you 19 and 10. Obi's not even giving you 10 and 5. Not right now. He's not giving you 10 and 5. And so it's one of those things like you're sacrificing points because somebody is making turnovers. And like I said, I will say the one thing about Randall, whether or not he goes for 19 and 10, the fact that somebody is coming to double team him gives a chance for somewhere else on the floor for somebody else to be open. People can leave. I would say the one reason why Obi gets so many wide open threes in the corner is because people are sagging off of him. Nobody's worried about Obi Toppin. And now with the emergence of RJ, the fact that you have two people in your lineup who are double team threats, it makes it makes it harder for defenses to work because there is somebody open on the floor. But it's not about holding Randall accountable or not. It's just the fact that he gives us a better chance to win than Obi does.
Yeah, and Kaiser Sose, he says, I don't think any of our kids look up to Randall after this season. Our chances are better to be in the lottery line. You don't know that, Kaiser Sose. Why do you think RJ Barrett mentions Randall in some of his press conferences, right? Randall is still the leader. RJ Barrett says it all the time, right? So is RJ Barrett lying? Right? I just think people need to understand that, it's not based on everything you see out there on the floor and watching these games. There's a locker room dynamic behind it. That's pretty much everything that I want to get across. But Gavin, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. This was a long time coming. I've been wanting to get you on for a long time. Let the people know where they can find you if you have, social media or anything like that. And just, put a message out to the people, to close us out.
Yeah. So, I don't use social media anymore. I'm not a proponent of social media anymore in this day and time. But I am on Facebook. I'm a realtor. So if you ever need any help with anything real estate, I'm Gavin Cayenne, the realtor on Facebook. So yeah, you can find me on there.
Cool, man. Like I said, always a pleasure having you on. I know we're going to talk about this at length a little bit more, as the shows go on, as the season goes on. But I thank you for coming on. Knicks fans, just be patient. Be patient with the process. Let it play itself out. Cam will get time eventually. McBride will get time eventually, right? So just let it play itself out. This season is not the end-all, be-all. We still have a full season next year where we can be able to evaluate Cam Reddish. We can be able to evaluate Deuce McBride. Tibbs may or may not be here, right? So just let the process play out. I know everyone is disappointed, but I'm willing to be a little bit patient. With that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you have anything to say, please leave it in the comment section. I'm always reading the comments. For anything that people have to say, I'll respond there. If I didn't get a chance to highlight your comment. But I really appreciate that, guys. I'm out of here. This is your boy, UnclefOOlio, with another episode of The Kontroversy. And I'm gone, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.